Something I wish I did a lot more was actually trust myself way more. Let me explain. But first, coffee cheers. Bam. If you're watching this video right now, I'm in Jakarta and just waiting for my grab ride for jiu-jitsu. I've been recently thinking a lot, and something I've been struggling with is constantly doubting myself. I'm not sure if you guys ever feel this way, but whenever anything big happens, like maybe it's a big deal like that's coming through, or a big job, or some monumental moment, I always get really nervous, I always get really anxious, and I always start doubting myself. And one of the people that kind of brings this up in me is actually my own family. Recently, my uncle. I feel like he was one of my biggest supporters back during my pharmacy days when I was doing the corporate stuff. Ever since I became like an entrepreneur, I feel like he's thought I was like really lost, directionless, and kind of like almost like homeless almost, right? And to be fair, I have lived at his place in Vegas for quite a while, and I am very appreciative of everything he used to do for me. Back in the day, he used to like take me to Chuck E. Cheese when I got a good report card. So he was always like a big person in my life. But something I just realized is that, sometimes the people that you find very close might not agree with the way that you live. And when I look at my uncle's life, he's always valued like traditionalism, a stable 9 to 5, right? So of course he never started a business. He never had a family or anything like that. So he comes from a different world. And even his own perception of the world, something I noticed is that he's always judging other people, telling other people how to live. When in reality, his way of living, first of all, I don't think is really here anymore with the event of AI. A lot of the jobs that he has in his mind are just simply outdated. And just to let you know, my uncle's way older. He's like 70 plus years old. But the second thing is, I realized that, when I'm around people like my dad previously or his brother, who is my uncle, I used to always feel like I was being judged against a checklist. And if it wasn't the way that he wanted me to live, I felt like I was intrinsically a failure. It's easy, especially if you're doing any sort of entrepreneurial pursuit, right? It's easy to beat yourself up and just tell yourself what you're not doing, what's going wrong. And it's easy to have this like negativity bias. And I'm very guilty of that if you've ever watched my other channel. But something that I try to remind myself is like how my uncle is living and his perception of the world. I don't need to change it. At the end of the day, like he can have his own ideas or whatever, and even if we disagree, so what? In some sort of ways, it's been very, very liberating. I feel like part of me has kind of outgrown the relationship, and even if it's my own blood and family, it doesn't mean that I don't appreciate them, but it only goes so far. I can only have so much negativity in my life, or I'll have to have space. And so even when I was in Jakarta, like literally I got a text message that he fell down, he needs me to move all my stuff and rush back home. And I was like, wait, what the heck? What does having my stuff there and you falling down have to do with each other? Do you need a house sitter, or do you need a caretaker or something like that? I don't know. And that's the thing, like what older people sometimes, it's like their judgment is really warped, or if they live alone, they go through these like cycles, and someone like my uncle doesn't really have the emotional coping tools to deal with this. And I remember just feeling really hard on myself to the point where I was like, oh man, am I a bad person? Am I a failure? My mind just automatically goes to negativity because that's what I kind of grew up on. But the crazy part is, I was like, wait, well, I've done quite a bit in my life. I'm 37 years old. I was a pharmacist. I was practicing. I switched into high ticket sales. I worked with my favorite creators in the world. And just because I'm deciding to make a pivot, or I find that something doesn't align with me, doesn't mean I should go all in. And it's my uncle's opinion that I should stay a particular path for the rest of my life that he's imposing on me. And that's just not how I want to live my life. What I'm saying is it's really, really hard to kind of cut those people off in my life. But I've made a decision to just like, unless it's an emergency, I want zero interaction. And I asked myself, is this something I'll regret in the future? And I'm like, maybe, but I don't think so. I think there's a high probability that I won't, but even if I do, I'll deal with it. So yeah, it's been really interesting. And I've just been going into rooms, even with clients too, when there's a lot of younger people, where oftentimes I'll discredit my own experience, which is really actually just up to myself, and I should just learn to trust my judgment way more, because guess what, I'm here and I oftentimes downplay my own judgment or accomplishments, but I really shouldn't. I shouldn't be so hard on myself. I should be very real with myself with the things that aren't going too well, and I do that almost every single day when I'm reflecting, and I reflect on the great stuff too. I think about this famous quote, what got you here won't get you there, and that usually applies to skill sets or your way of being, or maybe even careers and stuff that you want. But sometimes that really sadly it has to do with people too. And I don't look at it as a loss. I look at it as, hey, maybe we've just grown apart. We have different ways or opinions on how we should live life. You have yours, I have mine. I don't want the life that you want. Like my uncle, he's the type to like go to casinos, doesn't work out, just watches TV all the time. Not judging him, but that's not the way I want to live the rest of my life. I hate to say it, but I think it might be time to cut out the people like my uncle. But I feel like a lot of people are going through something like this, and I would love for you to drop in the comments. Otherwise, here's a video that the YouTube algo will think you'll like. That's it for yapping today. See ya, mother people. Bye.